If the past year has left you languishing, I have some things to say about that. So languishing seems to be one of the words of the moment right now. So if you are languishing, if you are exhausted, if you are burnt out, we can talk about that. So languishing is certainly a form of emotional pain, and my work is at the intersection between emotional pain, the brain, and relationships. One of the central organizing questions of all of my work is, how do you bring people back to life? So when people have endured pain, particularly when they have endured long stretches of pain or extreme stress, the brain makes this ostensibly adaptive change. It says, this has been so painful for me, I'm going to tag out for a while. Now, in mild forms, that's an incredibly adaptation. But what happens is everything about human behavior exists on a continuum. And at the extreme form of that continuum, you have apathy, you have numbness, and you have behavioral paralysis. Okay? I have worked with a lot of patients who are numb, emotionally numb, and it is horrific. So a big part of my work, when I work with trauma survivors, is how to bring people back into the full radiance of what it means to live a fully alive human life. So one of the things I want to say is that if you are suffering, or if you are watching people on your team suffer, the central question is, how do you help people heal? And heal in a way, not just that so the pain doesn't bother them anymore, but so that the pain becomes the site of their redemption. It is this idea that it is because of the pain, right? Not in spite of the pain, not around the pain, not when we forget about the pain, that our lives take on new meaning, that our lives make new sense, and that our lives, when we reckon with the pain, it is only then that our lives become whole. One of the things that is dangerous about languishing is that it is a death by a slow bleed, right? It is a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Nobody's doing great and then wakes up one morning and they're like, hey, this is pretty weird. I'm spontaneously languishing. Okay? And so the thing about a death by 1,000 paper cuts is that if you get 1, no big deal. If you get 3, still not that big of a deal. If you get 15, you might be like, well, things are getting pretty weird around here, but I will still soldier on. Okay? But then when you get 1,000 paper cuts, it becomes a systemic calamity. What was once a very, very minor thing has now created a remarkable amount of pain, right? You have cuts everywhere, you're in pain everywhere, there's kind of this infection in the whole system. So if you are a leader trying to figure out how to lead people through all of the various pains that we are now experiencing, right? Pain is now kind of the central lightning rod. I want to tell you that your brain will initially set you up. In other words, what you think is the rational solution to the problem of pain, to the problem of languishing, will actually exacerbate the problem further. And so with a little information about how your brain is wired, how other people's brains are wired, you can not fall for it, and you can find a solution that is actually an emotionally intelligent solution. So when it comes to solving pain, there is a rational response to pain. Stop the pain. The problem with that, and you're seeing this a lot right now, is that if you look out on the horizon on a superficial level, it looks in a lot of ways that the pain is about to stop. So we have a vaccine. There is no major imminent presidential election on the horizon. Spring is here. The CDC sounds like they're saying people don't need to wear their masks anymore. Do you know how many people are not going to be okay taking off their mask just because the CDC said it's time to take off the mask? So your brain has this wild thing called memory. And your brain has the best memory for the things that have been the most painful. So what you need to realize, and one of the things I talk about, is how to become an emotional authority. And an emotional authority is a leader who understands what I call emotional logic. The brain is not a rational machine, and the brain is not an emotional machine. The brain is a machine of emotion and logic, okay? And the emotional authority, the leaders who are emotionally brilliant, recognize that the brain is both. And a leader who is an emotional authority recognizes that the best way to lead is to help people know what they feel and feel what they know. And so if you are languishing, or if you are watching people languish on your team, it's important to recognize a couple of things. First, this is an incredibly normal, adaptive even posture to prolonged emotional pain. The second thing is a bit counterintuitive. It's that part of the reason we languish is because we are so exhausted. We have held our breath so long. We have been beaten down for so long. We have been forsaken for so long. And so we're like, we are done with it. But the path out of the pain is a path through the pain. And so in the next couple of videos, I'm going to talk to you about how to work with that pain in ways that transform the pain so that people can find the freedom and the relief that they are seeking.